Hello there. It's me, Hawkeye, welcoming you back to Hawkeye's House of Horrors. And today I'm really excited. Um, I'm going to talk to you about Dress to Kill. Now, there's four left in 1980 horror films I'm going to talk about. And the top four are all great films. As I said in a previous review, if you saw it, these films would be likely on a list of the top 25 horror films of the 1980s. Um, uh, Absolutely, they're great. Um, and as well, my sister gave me an idea for this because this is Hawkeye's House of Horrors. For the films that you really enjoy, you could give them three H's. The kind of my rating, the like highly recommended, and this one is going to get that three H's. That's Brian De Palma's Dress to Kill. Now he wrote and directed this. It premiered in LA on July the 25th, 1980. Now it was produced through Film Ways Pictures. I have a version of it here on DVD, Dress to Kill. It's got some features on it, so it's kind of interesting. It's not just the film. As you can see, it's through MGM, uh, but they got a hold of it when they bought out Orion. I believe it was 1998. Now, this film, to some people, I'm going to say, without a doubt, this film is a gem to some people. Some people totally love this movie. I, I got a feeling, anyways. Now it had a budget of 6.5 million back in 1980. When it hit the box office, it hit a home run. It made 31.9 million at the box office, or in today's dollars, that would be 119 million dollars. So they really made the money, and people ran out to watch this movie. People knew who Brian De Palma was. Um, he had done Carrie. That was a big one. Now, this film absolutely, it's heavily, heavily influenced by Alfred Hitchcock. And myself, I love Hitchcock. Now, much like Stanley Kubrick, if you rip off, if you want to be influenced by him and put that on the screen, I love it. I enjoy it. It makes me smile. Now, this isn't the only film that De Palma did that. He very much was influenced by Hitchcock quite a bit through the 70s and 80s. But in my opinion, of the heavily influenced Hitchcock films that he did, this one might be his best, as well as now it's very much like a giallo style horror film. Um, it's, you know, not quite a slasher, like it's got the influence, as I said, from Hitchcock, but as also from Italian cinema. Now, the two Hitchcock films that are really at play here, if you will, they are Vertigo and Psycho. And to me, I don't know why this feels controversial. I think Vertigo is a masterpiece. Some people don't. I personally do, and I also think Psycho is a masterpiece. So those are two excellent films to do a reworking of by De Palma here in this film. But this film, in addition to my number one film of 1980, it really does an excellent job in creating tension and suspense. And it's through that suspense where the terror is brought. I actually thank De Palma for not making this film like a complete gore show. There is gore in it. There's a bit of violence, but it's, in comparison to, say, Friday the 13th, that film I think was gorier than this film. And I thank De Palma for that. And I love just love the movement of the camera in this film. It's wonderful. Now the score of the film was done by Pino Donaggio, who had worked with De Palma before. I know he did Carrie, but this score is excellent, top notch. It's I've said this about uh, pretty much all the other films I've reviewed so far that I like. It's a wonderful marriage between the score and the vision, the visuals you're getting. But as well in the score, it also really amps up the suspense in those scenes where De Palma's bringing that on the screen. Now, the director of photography for the film, as I said, I was really like loved the camera movement. It was Ralph D. Bode, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He had also done Coal Miner's Daughter, which was done that same year, 1980, as well as the John Candy classic Uncle Buck. So that's cool. So now I'm going to go through the story, and within the story, things that I really liked or loved about the film. So the story is about the beautiful Kate Miller, played by Angie Dickinson, who at this point was in her late 40s, I believe. Now, Kate, she tells the audience, as well as her shrink, Dr. Robert Elliott, a wonderful performance put in by Michael Caine here, um, that she may not actually be against having an affair, um, as perhaps her husband is not exactly giving her what he should be, um, what he should be giving her, and in fact, maybe a little too self-centered. We are introduced to these characters right in the first scene of the film. A very good scene. She's in the shower and he's shaving, and she's just looking at him, fantasizing about him in the shower, only to realize that, oh, that was a dream. And then the two are having sex, and he's very much, uh, well, he's an asshole, really. And in the film, you don't really get to know a whole lot about him, which tells me that's De Palma's way of saying that the two of them actually don't have very much in common at all. Because when you watch it, you wonder what do they actually have in common? What makes them a couple? What makes them work? I have no idea because you're not shown any of that in the film. But in that first scene, though, as well, he's shaving and using a straight razor, which is a wonderful introduction to the film because the straight razor is then used by the killer in the film to kill off his victims or her victims. Or, oh, I'll get to that. Now, the scene where she ends up having an affair, it's an excellent scene, but it's totally taken from Vertigo. Um, in the film of Vertigo, that's when Jimmy Stewart is following Kim Novak. Excellent, amazing scene. I really love it. One of my favorite parts of that film in Vertigo is when Jimmy Stewart is following Kim Novak. But here, Angie Dickinson is at the art museum. She's just um, looking at the art, viewing the art, but also like writing down things she needs. For groceries to get and stuff like that. But in the end, she ends up meeting this man. But it definitely follows the same steps as Vertigo. And she's or he's following her, she's following him, she's looking for him. There's a lot of movement throughout the art museum until she goes outside and sees the man in the cab holding onto her glove. Now, what makes it excellent is we see a character that if you're just looking at Dickinson, you may not pick it up, but there is a character as the camera moves from Dickinson over to the man in the cab. Um, it is our killer, but we don't know that they're a killer. They haven't done anything wrong yet, but we see that killer right there. Um, then we see the back of that person as they are then walking to where Dickinson threw her other glove down. And then, as well, in the museum, another thing I loved is the sound. It's excellent. Um, it's really almost muted, or it is from Kate's ears. This is from what she hears. You're hearing it. So when people are talking, you can't quite pick up what they're saying, or you have to listen really hard to pick it up. I love that. And to me, as well, there is a reason why Kate Miller is wearing white. To me, this indicates that this is something she hasn't done before. She's not a floozy. She doesn't go out and have random affairs with men, stuff like that. This is something she's not hasn't done before, and who knows, she may not do it ever again. Wink, wink. Um, but I think that's what it indicates to me, anyways. So, anyways, after she has an affair with this man, and which is hilarious. It's almost got like a Hitchcockian thing going on to me, perhaps. Like right before she leaves, um, she finds out like she was getting a pad of paper to write down a note for him, but then finds out like medical documents from the guy that he has syphilis and gonorrhea, and she may have just had unprotected sex with this guy. Yikes. That's horrible. But then, like, right after that, she leaves the apartment and goes into an elevator and then is killed by this killer that we saw earlier. But a prostitute named Liz Blake, played by De Palma's wife at the time, Nancy Allen, who I remember from RoboCop. Love that movie. Um, who, as well, I think she does a very good job in this film. Um, she finds Kate Miller caught up and reaching towards her in the elevator. Um, now, something else here I wrote down is that Nancy Allen, for her performance, got a Golden Raspberry nomination for her performance. These are really funny awards, really stupid, especially after time when you look back at who got them. They're given to the worst of a particular year. I'm going to talk about these awards later I definitely in the number one horror film of 1980 for me, but she got this for the worst performance um, of 1980, as well as Michael Caine, which is incredible. Like she's really good. He's excellent. He does. He knocks it out of the park. Everybody in the whole acting department in this film, they all do a great job. So it's really silly that they got Golden Raspberry nominations as well. De Palma himself got one for worst director. Okay, whatever. Did you just like pick movies out of a hat, or did you watch the movie? That's ridiculous to me and really funny. And then in the film, everybody's trying to figure out who the killer is. But at the same time, Liz Blake is going to be the next victim as she witnessed the killer. So that's the basic gist of the film. Um, One thing as well, like Psycho in this film, who you believe the real main character of the film is dead like halfway or a third into the film, very much like Psycho did. And then at that point, Nancy Allen's character takes over that main character. Now, the two other big main characters in the film are Kate's son, Peter, played by Keith Gordon, great actor. Um, I remember him from John Carpenter's or Stephen King's Christine. Great actor. And when you're introduced to him, he's working on as Peter. And Dennis Franz, who I will always remember from NYPD Blue. Here he plays the asshole cop, Detective Marino. Um, and if you want to know my opinion, if I had to pick one performance in the film, I think he puts in the best performance. He's great as an asshole. He's great, and he's right in the character. Puts in a terrific performance. And then there's two other roles I'm just gonna quickly talk about. There's Brandon Maggart, who was in Christmas Evil, also from 1980. Good Christmas horror film for anybody out there that wants to this year see a new Christmas horror film they've never seen before. That one's good. As well as Bill Randolph, who plays a cabbie, who was also in Friday the 13th Part 2, which I hope to review at some point soon here. And then William Finley, who was in Phantom of the Paradise, also a film by Brian De Palma. Um, does an uncredited job here as the voice of Bobby on the answering machine of Dr. Elliot. Now, another thing that's really cool in this that De Palma I know did in Carrie. This one, it's not quite as, doesn't happen quite as often, but they're really nice shots of someone in the foreground and someone in the background in the same shot. And to me, that's a very De Palma look. For example, of that shot, and maybe the one that really worked the best is when Nancy Allen and Michael Caine are in the same shot, and there's a noise, and they turn their head, both of them, towards the camera, looking the other way. Um, but it's Michael Caine dressed as a woman. So then you find out that Dr. Elliot is actually the killer. Um, but it's a really good shot of the two of them, foreground, background. Really worked very well. Another shot I really liked in the film was when shot of Alan with the cop, and they're looking for the punks that are chasing her as she gets into the subway. Um, they look one way, behind them. Hey, there's Michael Caine dressed as a woman jumping on the train. Look the other way. Hey, behind them now. There's the punks jumping on the train. To me, that's very cool and very Hitchcockian as well. To me, now the end of the film is good. It's good, but this is where um, it doesn't ruin the film for me in any way. But this is where I kind of have a bit of a problem with it. Is there's like too many false endings going on. Um, I don't like that when you build false endings like that. And I'll go through them and then tell you maybe how I would have done it just a little differently. So we discover at the end of the film that the killer is actually Dr. Elliot, who dresses up as a woman to commit murder. That would be a good ending, and most horror films would end there and wrap up, and you would say, "Hey, that was good. That was a good ending." But that's not how this one ends. So then we go to the psycho ending, where Dr. Levy explains to the audience and the character who Dr. Elliot is and how he would like to be a woman. But in turning him on, the female side of him then commits the murder, much like the Norman Bates and his mother angle as well. Uh, and it also ties up any loose ends that you may have been questioning certain things going on in the film. They all get tied up here. But that's not the ending. And then we go to a scene in a restaurant where Peter and Liz talk about what happens when the doctor performs a sex change on you. Okay, and then but it plays out like a comedy because there's an old biddy beside them that's like listening right into their conversation and having these like facial expressions. Yeah, it's funny. Um, and that would be a weird ending. And it isn't. Um, but then we jump to go to the hospital where Dr. Elliot is, and he kills a nurse inside the
Oh,
hospital. What is
there.
interesting is there's actually only two kills in the entire film, so this is not a high body count film or horror film. Um, at that point, then he proceeds to take her clothes off, telling you that he is now going to wear her clothes. Um, and perhaps that would be a good ending too. That he's still alive, he's still um, got a problem, and he's still committing these horrible acts. But no, that's not the ending. Then we go to the next scene where Liz is at Peter's house in the shower. She sees Kane um, in drag, and the tension and the suspense is built up wonderfully in this film. It's excellent in this scene. She then tries to get over to the medicine cabinet as there is a straight razor in there. And we keep going back over seeing Kane outside the bathroom and back to Alan a few times. And then we see, oh, there's the shoes, back to Alan. And then we go back to the shoes to discover that it is actually only the shoes. There's no one in the shoes. He's actually standing right behind her and then slits her throat. That would have been an excellent ending right there to end the film right there. But no, that's not the ending. We then
We then.
see Alan waking up, discovering that it was all just a dream. What? That seems so Friday the 13th to me. Um, but the ending does work better than the tacked on ending in Friday the 13th, though. I will say that. Um, but in like the correct way, in my opinion, would to have been of Kane killing her character and ending the film right there. Um, Now, I also would have cut out the scene in the restaurant, and then I would have changed the scene in the hospital so that you could see perhaps. I do believe you need to see that Kane escaping from the mental hospital, or um, working out a plan in order to escape from the hospital, something like that. To indicate to you that he is going to or has escaped from the hospital. I think that would have been a better ending to me. But as I said, the ending's still good. It still works for me. Maybe some people love it. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride of an ending, which maybe some people love. Um, but that's just something I would have changed there. Now, originally, the role played by Dr. Elliot wasn't actually intended for Michael Caine. It was supposed to be for Sean Connery. That would have been pretty cool. I mean, it was really awesome. Michael Caine played the role, but it would have been pretty cool to see Sean Connery in that role. I mean, I hope he wouldn't be wearing a beard at the time. That would have been very funny to see him dressed as a woman wearing a beard. Um, but I guess at the time, or perhaps to this day, it's controversial as it shows that transgender people are also mentally ill or giving you that suggestion. Um, I like personally, I don't look at one film or one character that is anything and say that is what that character is, or like that what that race is, what that sexuality, what any of that stuff. I don't do that, and I don't think other people should do that. It's just this one particular character. Now, what De Palma did in this film that made it so original and really worked is the film is totally dripping with sexuality and sex, and it's right in the story, right in a lot of the characters. There's something about them that has to do with sex or sexuality. And that was his choice. And that was his way of layering the story by adding those things in there and made it, to me, very original, the story. Now, so that's my take on it. But anyways, that is Dress to Kill by Brian De Palma. Definitely three H's from me, Hawkeye. You got to see this. I hope you have seen it because, like, I mean, I just talked about the whole thing. But, anyways, I can't wait to watch the next one and bring that to you. But, anyways, have yourself a good day.